Welcome back after the break. You're watching Indus News and I'm Fizza Jamal bringing you our main stories in detail. In a telephone conversation, Prime Minister Imran Khan has told German Chancellor Angela Merkel of the severe shortage of food and medicines in occupied Kashmir. The situation has worsened since Indian-occupied Kashmir was stripped off of its special status on August the 5th and the valley locked down by Indian security forces. Prime Minister Khan said Indian actions can jeopardize regional peace and international community should act urgently. Khan also underlined concerns about a false flag operation by India on the line of control to divert the world's attention. Merkel said the Kashmir issue should be resolved peacefully and the tensions in the region should be de-escalated. The French President Emmanuel Macron, who has asked India to de-escalate and resolve the dispute over occupied Kashmir, amidst growing international pressure on New Delhi, Macron said France is concerned over regional stability after India's recent actions. Macron and India's Prime Minister Modi met at the Chantilly Palace ahead of the annual G7 summit. Macron said no third party should intervene or incite violence in connection with the Kashmir issue. In a joint statement with Modi, Macron said it is for India and Pakistan to jointly resolve the matter. Macron said he would reach out to the Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan to discuss the matter. Meanwhile, the White House said US President Trump plans to help calm regional tensions after India's annexation of Kashmir. In a related development, UN Special Rapporteurs have asked India to end its crackdown on freedom of expression in occupied Kashmir. In a statement, they expressed deep concern over the arrest of Kashmiri political figures, journalists, human rights defenders, and civilians. They called India's actions in the valley a collective punishment for the civilian population. The experts expressed concerns over reports of Indian forces conducting night raids on homes in occupied Kashmir. The UN Human Rights Council appointed specialists called for an investigation into Indian human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged the world to stamp out anti-Muslim sentiments and persecution. Pakistan has asked Nepal, the chair of SAARC, to play its role in stopping India's human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. In a phone call, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi briefed his Nepalese counterpart Pradeep Gyawali over the crisis in occupied valley. Qureshi asked Nepal to intervene on its capacity as the SAARC chair for peace and stability in South Asia. Gyawali said Nepal is closely watching the situation in Indian-occupied Kashmir and called for the settlement of all disputes through peaceful means. The Asia-Pacific group of the Financial Action Task Force has adopted Pakistan's third mutual evaluation report. It was adopted at the APG's 22nd annual meeting and technical assistance forum in Canberra, Australia. The report will now be subject to post-plenary quality and consistency review prior to publication. Meanwhile, Pakistan has rubbished Indian media's claims that it has been blacklisted by the anti-money laundering watchdog. In a press release, Pakistan's Ministry of Finance rejected such reports as baseless and incorrect. It said Pakistan has been directed to submit follow-up progress reports on a quarterly basis as per APG's third round mutual evaluation procedures. Moving on, the ninth round of talks between the US and the Afghan Taliban has started in Doha to finalize a peace deal. The two sides will discuss US troop withdrawals and a ceasefire between the warring sides in the country. After the eighth round, US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said excellent progress was made with the Taliban. Meanwhile, President Ashraf Ghani says the Afghan government will join the talks with the Taliban as they move to a crucial phase. The Taliban, however, have repeatedly refused to hold direct talks with the Afghan government. In Syria, the army has surrounded rebels in a cluster of towns in northwest Syria's Hama countryside, imposing a choking siege. Syrian state media says the government forces have seized a dozen hills and expanded their control of a main highway that runs through the area. It said the Syrian forces are marching deeper into the pocket. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the forces have recovered the town of Kafr Zita from rebels who had controlled it since 2012. It said a Turkish military post in the nearby town of Morek has also been encircled by the forces. Meanwhile, airstrikes in southern Idlib have killed 3 civilians. UN Special Envoy to Yemen Martin Griffiths has met with Houthi rebel leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi in a bid to revive stalled peace talks. In a tweet, Griffiths said he discussed ways of implementing the peace agreement struck last December during their meeting in the capital, Sana'a. He said talks were focused on resuming a political process to end the conflict between Houthis and the Saudi-backed government. Last year, the UN mediated a ceasefire in Hodeidah and 2 other port cities. Both sides have since failed to withdraw forces from the city, the lifeline for humanitarian aid into Yemen. Meanwhile, the UN says a loaded oil tanker stranded off Yemen's coast threatens to cause an environmental disaster in the Red Sea. North Korea has warned the US that continuing with existing sanctions would be a mistake. Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho says Pyongyang is ready for both a diplomatic dialogue and an escalation with Washington. Ri also accused US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo of hampering talks with North Korea. He said Pompeo is more interested in his own political ambitions than in current US foreign policy. Earlier, South Korea said the US and North Korea may soon resume denuclearization talks, but North Korea has said it has no interest in dialogue as long as the US and South Korea persist with military provocations. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his military to prepare for a reciprocal response to a recent US cruise missile test. In a statement, the Kremlin said Putin has ordered an analysis of the threat posed by the US missile test, the first since withdrawing from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty earlier this month. The Kremlin said US talk of deploying new missiles in the Asia-Pacific region affects Russia's core interests because it is close to its eastern border. It cited President Putin as saying the US missile test shows that Washington aims to deploy previously banned missiles around the world. He said Russia does not want to be drawn into an arms race. The Russian president also expressed willingness to hold negotiations with the US to restore trust and strengthen international security. Russia has also told G7 members to agree their position on its reinstatement instead of making a show out of discussions. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said Russia would need to examine tangible proposals before deciding whether it should join the bloc. The annual G7 summit opens in France tomorrow. Britain, France, and Germany have voiced reservations over bringing Russia back into the bloc. They have asked Russia to first resolve the conflict in Ukraine. Their comments follow US President Donald Trump's call to readmit Russia to the G7. Opposing the idea, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that nothing has changed since Russia's removal in 2014. Russia was expelled from the erstwhile G8 when it annexed the Ukrainian territory of Crimea 5 years ago. France says it will take in 150 out of 356 migrants from the Ocean Viking ship, which has been drifting in the Mediterranean for 2 weeks. Interior Minister Christoph Castaner says the rescue ship will dock in Malta. The minister says Germany, Portugal, Romania, Luxembourg, and Ireland are also part of the agreement. European Union's Migration Commissioner Dimitris Avramopoulos has praised Malta for allowing the people on board to disembark. The Norwegian-flagged ship is carrying mostly Africans from Sudan, plucked from the sea in 4 separate missions. Italy's President Sergio Mattarella has given the country's main political parties until Tuesday to form a workable coalition. He said Italy will need fresh elections if a stable government cannot be formed. Five Star Movement and Forza Italia party leaders met Mattarella to discuss the crisis of Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte's resignation. Forza Italia leader Silvio Berlusconi says snap elections should be held if a new center-right government cannot be formed. But Five Star Movement leader Luigi Di Maio says he is working to form a new government and avoid elections. Five-Star is in coalition talks with the center-left Democratic Party after its alliance with the far-right League Party collapsed. It has been 3 years since the longest-running civil war of modern times ended in Colombia, but the war's legacy still continues to poison the lives of people across the country. This report focuses on just one of the aspects.
Someone is threatening Joanna Sainz. They use letters and messages on social media app WhatsApp. They come from a group called the Black Eagles. She's terrified because 10 years ago she was actually attacked.
They take me to a vacant lot. They beat me. They tell me I'm nosy. They insult me. They rape me.
They threaten people who campaign to make a difference. People like Christiane Robayo.
The fear generated by these types of threats is multiple for families, emotionally and psychologically. The social leader has to hide. He has to change housing. He needs to find new path and lose his social bond.
Colombia is still emerging from the longest civil war in modern history. The Black Eagles were an umbrella for 800 right-wing groups. When the war ended in 2016, they went quiet. No one has been captured. No one has been prosecuted. Nobody knows who they are. They could be a facade to hide politicians, paramilitaries, and individuals who just want to intimidate. But their terror has spread across the country, enough to make tackling them a government priority. And it is spread with chilling simplicity.
This is what we call a pamphlet. This pamphlet is handed over to a lot of social leaders. It is slid under doors in villages, and in this way, for the most part, the threats of the Black Eagles are distributed.
This is the legacy of the war and the chaos it created. People like Joanna Sainz will be left to cope with it for the foreseeable future.
Well, don't go anywhere because I'll be right back after a very short break. Yusuf Salman and his team pick up plastic debris left by bathers or cast up by the sea in the early morning. A June report by the Worldwide Fund for Nature ranked Tel Aviv's coastline as the third most polluted by plastic waste in the Mediterranean. This report has the details.
The Jewish Koralik blames Israel's passion for plastic on a lack of education and on deeply ingrained habits, such as using disposable tableware for family picnics. Observant Jews who want a beachfront lunch on Saturdays are forbidden from washing the dishes afterwards. This is because their faith bans them from working on the Sabbath. Despite the activities of environmental groups, Israel remains hooked on plastic. Working in heat and humidity with large rakes, they scoop plastic cups, cigarette ends, empty sunscreen tubes, and soiled babies' nappies.
I think Israeli people are very dirty. I think they're not aware and they haven't been educated enough about how to take care of their environment. I just came from spending 3 summers in Europe, and the behavior of people towards trash is completely and absolutely different.
In 2005, Israel's Environmental Protection Ministry launched a program offering local councils incentives for proven results in cleaning their beaches. Subject to regular inspection, councils meeting these requirements get extra funding. Head of the Environment Ministry's Marine Division, Ran Amir, says failing authorities face cuts or even court trials. Amir cites the case of the popular Palmahim beach south of Tel Aviv. Palmahim Municipal Council was taken to court and fined over the condition of their beach.
We give them, the school children, lectures about how to protect the environment. We educate them that the sea and the beach starts right next to their house in drainage canals. Once someone throws a bottle cap or a plastic bag, it ends up in the drainage canals and then reaches the sea.
With 4 million inhabitants, Tel Aviv is Israel's most populous metropolitan area.
Have you ever wondered how your city came to be as it is now? What people saw on the same streets you walked through? Well, now people in Berlin can. This report shows Berlin's time ride into how things used to be in Germany's past using virtual reality.
Time Ride is an attempt to time travel, tracing how the glimmering city of Berlin came to be as it is now. The company was founded at the end of 2016 by Jonas Roth in Munich. The exhibition is based in 4 cities: Munich, Berlin, Cologne, and Dresden. As part of a guided exhibition, visitors can journey back in time to a historical period characterizing the city.
A lot of historical material have been collected, video material, images, and on the basis of this material, each house, there are more than 500 houses in high resolution and some in the background, is then remodeled because the images are always in 2D and we need a 3D image to get this spatial effect.
In Cologne, city life is revived at the beginning of the 20th century. Dresden awakes to the splendor of 1719 during the reign of August the Strong. The guests can take a seat in Cologne tram or a Baroque carriage, each according to the time and place. Other cities and epochs are already being planned.
They're different documents. There are of course many archives in Berlin and also many archival documents online. Everything was assembled, and that's how new houses and buildings were recreated.
Time Ride is a collaborative effort between artists, designers, historians, and curators. It also won the German Tourism Award in 2018.
Stock markets in Europe and Asia are treading water over uncertainty about the extent of further U.S. interest rate cuts. With the trade war between the U.S. and China dragging on, investors are focusing on a speech by Federal Reserve Bank Chair Jerome Powell later today. In early trading, the FTSE 100 has risen more than 0.5%. Frankfurt's DAX and the CAC index in Paris are also in positive territory. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng, the Shanghai Composite closed up 0.5%. The Nikkei 225 in Tokyo and Australia's ASX gained a fraction too. As we bear the heat in Lahore, let's see what the weather is looking like today around the globe. These are all the top stories in detail I have for you this hour, but stay tuned to Indus News for further updates.